I wanted to give you a few thoughts on the genuinely spiritual life. It is okay to pray, God, fill me with all the things you want to see in me. It recognizes that there's things that God is looking for in you and that you are unable to produce them yourself. This is so important. A bankrupt cry, a poverty, a poor in spirit heart that says, Lord, I know you're looking for things from me, but I'm unable to give them to you. So I ask you to fill me with the things you wish to see in me. This is very important for us to live here in this dependency. You may ask, how does one glorify God? Jesus really gives us a key statement. In John 17, he says, I glorified you by accomplishing the work that you have given me to do. There are things that God has laid in front of us, good works prepared beforehand for us to walk in. And when we realize that God is looking for specific things from us, we see that glory goes to Him when we accomplish those things. But we must remember, we are unable to accomplish them in ourselves. They must be accomplished by Him, through us. One of the things that I think is overlooked a lot in our lives when we think of what God is looking for in us is meekness and patience and gentleness. And the spiritual fact that bringing our families up solely for Him, who have a real love for Him in their hearts and an indifference to the things of this world, patience, gentleness, and love inside of our families, this is something God is extremely glorified in. When we recognize that gentleness is His work, we see that gentleness is the work that He has given us to do. Paul said, let your gentleness be made known to all. In other words, conduct yourself with such a spirit of sweetness and gentleness toward other people that everyone will be able to know that in dealing with you, there is gentleness like Jesus. You know, something I've been learning in my own life for the past few years is that in dealing with other people, I must remember how God has dealt with me, how patient He has been, merciful and gentle. And I learned from that how to be with other people. This is the genuine spiritual life. And we have to look at our actual daily disturbances, the things that cause friction or conflict in our lives on a constant basis. We tend to see these things as in opposition to the presence of God, instead of recognizing that they are there as doorways to pass into a deeper dependence upon the empowerment of God's presence. So you may have certain things in your life that you keep finding cause you to be disturbed on the inside. Switch your understanding here and recognize that those things that so often disturb you are planted there by God to teach you to be able to lean into Him, to teach you to lean into Him and experience a greater empowerment, bliss, and joy of His presence in your daily life. The last thing I want to say is, in the midst of living a spiritual life, we cannot be disheartened by our falls. These falls clearly point to our weak places, and these things make us more humble. We actually recognize, God, here in my life, I have not been depending upon you. I have pridefully went on without you. I deeply need you. It causes a deeper, more vast dependence upon Him. And this dependency brings us into a deeper diligence to remain abiding in Him. Most of our problems would be solved by simply taking abiding in Him a little bit more seriously. So if you are not patient with yourself and you keep getting discouraged by your own falls, you find over and over again that discouragement will add nothing to you. It will only worsen things. It's better to recognize that these areas are being pinpointed by God as areas that dependence and gentleness needs to work its way in to your life. He's guiding you into a fuller image of His love in your daily life. So these are just a few points on the spiritual life, the genuinely spiritual life, that I believe are overlooked a lot of times and things that I think about in my own heart a lot. I want to be meek and gentle and patient, even under the things that disturb me. Just like Jesus, I want to deal with others the way that Jesus has dealt with me, because the way He has dealt with me has caused me to love Him more and become more like Him. Let me pray for you. Father, I pray that you would help every viewer come into a greater understanding of what a genuinely spiritual life looks like, with meekness and gentleness and love and patience with others and dependence upon the empowerment of your presence. Lord, I look to you on their behalf. Lord, may they sense you like never before in their lives and live forth from that empowering presence. In your precious name, amen.